Okay, so today I'm going to talk about two developmental theories. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is the theory of cognitive development, which was created by Piaget in 1936. And essentially, he says that cognitive development occurs both biologically and due to the environment of a child. So essentially, you are either born knowing things, or because of where you are and the people that surround you and the environment that you're in, you start to grow based on that environment. And Piaget was just interesting of the origin of thought, like where does the thinking come from? And this is called genetic epistemology. So he just wanted to know where the thoughts come from. And based on his theory, he came up with the term schema. And a schema is basically a building block of intelligence. So based on something that you know something else, and you just keep building on top of that. And one schema builds up to a different schema, and you keep growing off of that. And he there was two examples of schemas, and one of them is a script schema. Essentially, the example is that a person goes to a restaurant, and at the restaurant, he knows that he has to look at the menu to know what to order. He has to order what he wants to eat the food, pay for the food, and then be gone. And this is just based on what he has learned, what he has done before, and he just knows that that's what you do. And that's also innate schemas. And these innate schemas are things that you're born with. So if an infant, if the mother puts a finger on the infant's palm, the child would automatically grasp it. And that's something that nobody taught him, that nobody showed him. It's just something that the child knew. And it's again also as the child knowing how to eat off of mother's breast. It's just something that we're both with. So that's an innate schema. And schemas, the child grows based on schemas in two different ways. There's assimilation and accommodation. Assimilation is based on something that I know. I'm going to connect that to a new term or to a new subject that is being presented to me. And accommodation saying, well, based on something that I know, that doesn't apply though to this. So I have to modify that schema in order to create a different schema about things. The example that I gave is a child going to the aquarium for the first time, and he sees in one of the little glass things an eel, and he calls it a snake because he knows that a squiggly animal with no legs is a snake. And then the mom comes around and tells him, oh, that's really good. It does look like a snake, but this one lives in the ocean, and this is called an eel. So now the child knows, okay, there's two squiggly animals. There's one that lives in the earth, that's called a snake, and there's one that lives in the ocean, and that's called an eel. So he accommodated that. And both of these, assimilation and accommodation, have shared concepts. And basically, in order for assimilation and accommodation to happen, there has to be an equilibration. Essentially, that's the force that tells a child, hey, things are not working. I'm frustrated because I don't know this concept quite well, but I'm going to keep learning from it. And essentially, that's what it is. It's the force that helps the child want to learn even more. He is not satisfied with accommodation. He wants to keep going with assimilation. And there's also, Piaget thought that kids learn best with discovery learning. Essentially, that it's better exploring to learn instead of being told what to do. It's better for the child to go out there and explore. And there's different stages of development. The first one is sensory motor development. And the biggest milestone in this is that you can hide an object in front of the child, but the child still knows that the object is there. So essentially putting a ball underneath a cup, and the child knows the ball is not gone, it's just underneath the cup. And then there's stage 2, which is pre-operational. And this one is when the child starts to know that different things stand for something else. So words. If I'm crying, I'm sad. That's the word to describe that. Or even in playing, hey, I'm going to use these blocks, and now this is going to be called a building, and I'm going to use my car to go around the building. And then there's stage 3, which is concrete operational, and this is when kids start to figure out things internally. So they know that there's a problem, I'm going to think about a solution, and instead of trying things out, I'm just going to think about it first, and then I'm going to do it. And then there's stage 4, which is formal operational. This is essentially from 11 years and on. So this is the stage that even I am still in. And this is when I get abstract concepts and I make hypotheses on them. And that's what happens from then on. And then I'm going to talk about the next theory, which is zone proximal development, which was created by Vygotsky in 1978. And it focuses on the differences between letting a child solve a problem on its own, or having an adult, a more knowledgeable adult, to guide the child to come up with a solution of a problem. And this is done by scaffolding, which is the guidance that the more knowledgeable adult gives to the child in order to solve a problem. And the more knowledgeable doesn't necessarily have to be an adult. It's just someone that has knowledge on the problem that is being presented that will help the child. Again, it could easily be a 11-year-old helping a 40-year-old. So it's just someone that knows more on the problem. And this is done through knowledge through social interaction. So I'm the one that has the more knowledge, and I'm the one helping, and this is how I'm sharing my knowledge. I'm interacting with the child and sharing my knowledge. And there's effective ways of doing scaffolding, and I'm going to use the example of helping a child zip up their jacket, which is something that I see a lot at my preschool. So I have to make sure that the child is maintaining focus, that he doesn't get distracted by his peers around him or by anything else around him, that I get to focus on the zipper. And make the task simple, not make it too complicated where I just, here, put this, put that, and that, and I have to tell them, hey, you use this side and grab this side with your hands, and try to give structure on what to do. And again, emphasize on the things that would help, like you need to use your hands and you need to use your eyes to see what you're doing. And I have to also help the child not get frustrated, because especially at that age, they just want to give up and say, hey, you do it, or I can't do it. That's the number one favorite. I can't do it. I need help. And then I also have to show the child, okay, I'm going to do it first and then you're going to try it. But it's the showing and then letting the child get that done. And there's ways to apply scaffolding for different things. For example, in order for text, like reading text, there's called reciprocal teaching, which is where you're reading a book to a child and you make sure you're going through it, you're summarizing what's going in the page. Like you read something and then you summarize it again to make sure everything's clear for the child, or you question the child, did you guys understand that, or has this happened to you? Or again, clarifying what happened and then telling him, what do you think is going to happen on the next page? You're predicting, or you're helping the child predict. And there's also collaboration learning, and I'm going to go back to the example of the zipper, where I let other friends that have already managed to accomplish that task and are good at it and have some more skills on it, and let them help their other friends with the zipper and say, oh, look, she did it, she knows how to do it, I'm gonna let her help you. And that's another way to apply scaffolding. So yeah, those are my two theories.